Hey, it's Jordan with Status Coup. Breaking news. And the white smoke that is normally coming out of the Vatican when a new pope is named is currently coming out of CNN, MSNBC, and of course, Fox News headquarters. Elon Musk, the soon-to-be leader of Twitter, not a done deal yet, but by all expectations has formally announced one of his first duties and acts will be bringing back President Trump to Twitter. Let's take a listen.
Are you planning to let Donald Trump back on?
Well, I think there's a general question of should Twitter have permanent bans? And I've talked with Jack Dorsey about this, and he and I are of the same mind, which is that permanent bans should be extremely rare and really reserved for people where they're trying to for accounts that are bots or spam scam accounts where there's just no legitimacy to the account at all. I do think that it was not correct to ban Donald Trump. I think that was a mistake. Because it alienated a large part of the country and did not ultimately result in Donald Trump not having a voice. He is now going to be on Truth Social, as will a large part of the right in the United States. And so I think this could end up being frankly worse than having a single forum where everyone can debate. I guess the answer is that I would reverse the perma ban. Obviously, I don't own Twitter yet, so this is not like a thing that will definitely happen, because what if I don't own Twitter? But my opinion, and Jack Dorsey, I want to be clear, shares this opinion, is that we should not have perma bans. Now that doesn't mean that somebody gets to say whatever they want to say. If they say something that is illegal or otherwise, just destructive to the world, then there should be perhaps a timeout, a temporary suspension, or that particular tweet should be made invisible or have very limited traction. But I think perma bans just fundamentally undermine trust in Twitter.
So there you have it. Elon Musk says no permanent bans, and he would bring back President Trump. Let me tell you something. As somebody who worked for a dark period in their life at Fox News and then at MSNBC, I could tell you right now, they are popping champagne and praying that Elon Musk officially takes over Twitter. Because as he said, it's not a done deal. Their ratings have tanked since Donald Trump was no longer available to lead their news cycle. If you paid attention, Donald Trump would tweet something crazy, 7 a.m., 8 a.m., and it would literally lead the news cycle all day, particularly in 2016 when they gave him $5 billion in free advertising. And of course, as he was president, literally I was at Standing Rock, Flint, covering homeless people, this and that. Nothing I covered or anything of substance that could be covered. And very few were actually out there covering anything of substance affecting real people, real working people, real oppressed people. I would always be outraged when I got back to the hotel and literally they were still covering whatever nonsense Trump tweeted. And a lot of it was dangerous nonsense. But this is as to be expected that Elon Musk would bring him back. Something that I found interesting was he used the term, you can't just say whatever you want. He mentioned if something's particularly destructive to society, I believe he said, he might, they might, make it less visible or invisible, as he said.
Just destructive to the world, then there should be perhaps a timeout, a temporary suspension, or that particular tweet should be made invisible or have very limited traction.
Well, who determines what's destructive to society? This is why I was saying, since this news came out of Elon Musk's Twitter takeover, to me, the big issue is not who is he restoring that's been banned, but do you really think Elon Musk and Elon Musk own Twitter, that their algorithm is just going to be free and fair? Of course, he said it will be open source. I will believe that when I see it. But if there's even more momentum with labor unions and the labor movement in this country, if there's some type of economic protest that grows, something like a general strike one day, well, who's determining what's destructive to society? And therefore, we need to make less visible, i.e., rig the algorithm, which has happened on this platform owned by Google, Facebook, and to a certain degree, Twitter already has played favorites with their algorithm, propping up certain accounts and networks and propping down or burying more independent, anti-capitalist, anti-war voices. So what he just said there in terms of destructive, leading to invisibility, I don't really love if Elon Musk and his brain trust is deciding what's destructive. Of course, he's right. Certain speech can break laws if you're, directly calling for violence or things like that. There's courts for that, this and that. But I don't really like that, empty space between what he's talking about, as in destructive to society, or something like that. But getting back to the corporate media, this is the lifeboat that they've been waiting for. This is the rescue chopper that they've been waiting for. Because make no mistake about it, they're not uber concerned, like the Anderson Cooper and Rachel Maddow and Morning Joe said. They feign outrage at the, attack on democracy, which, by the way, they all helped that attack on democracy by boosting Trump. And we don't even have a democracy. That's just a fairy tale. We have an oligarchy. But literally, the bottom line is people like the food fight. People like the reality show. That's why their ratings were through the roof. And they have not had that since then. That's why they've been covering Russia and Ukraine so much. I believe it should be covered, but they were doing wall to war. Wall to war. I meant wall to wall, but it is wall to war. Because they knew that would gin up their ratings, and they haven't really found anything to gin up their ratings since Trump left. Obviously, COVID at times, but the recipe for them has been Trump. I said from day one, when Trump came down that escalator in 2015, he saved the cable news industry, which was dying at the time. Younger viewers fleeing cable news. And mostly baby boomers as their audience. No disrespect to, baby boomers in my audience. They're not all watching CNN, but CNN, MSNBC, Fox's predominant audience is older. So at the end of the day, this is great news for cable news. Even New York Times, digital outlets who obviously we know report on Trump's tweets nonstop. And it's probably going to gin up their ratings more. The losers in this is us. It's the actual stories that matter that, frankly, CNN, MSNBC aren't really covering anyway, with Trump on Twitter or off Twitter, but they're definitely not covering it with Trump on Twitter. So Amazon workers fighting for a union, the Starbucks labor union movement, exploding homelessness in this country, people rationing healthcare, insulin, people making choices between medicine or groceries. The list goes on and on. The climate crisis, this and that. We're headed for another cycle of a food fight because, make no mistake, once the midterms are over, you're already heading into presidential news cycle. They start covering the presidential elections now, basically 5 minutes after the midterm ends. So, not official until Elon Musk is back at Twitter, or owning Twitter, I mean. Trump said he's not going to come back to Twitter either way. That's a bunch of bullshit. His Truth Social is floundering. I think it's a mess from what I've read. So he'll be back to Twitter in no time because he needs it. The attention, the chaos, the conflict, the ratings that he drives is his oxygen. And he, by all reports, has been frustrated in his Mar-a-Lago, his Mar-a-Lago banishment, basically, from Twitter. So, and honestly, Twitter, besides cable news ratings, did help him greatly get out his message. And by all accounts, he's running again in 2024. So he's going to be able to rally his base every single day, possibly on the hour when he's back on Twitter. So not great news for the news industry, for actually important issues. good in terms of, I guess, censorship. I think Trump, there were many things that he could have been banned for from Twitter years ago, and he has incited violence. But at a certain point, I do think permanently banning someone, you have to have a real legal justification for that. I also think just because this is like good news for free speech doesn't mean it's good news for news, information, a healthy democracy, because this is just going to make Twitter even more of a cesspool than it already is. But that's the country we live in. So that's the breaking news. Elon Musk, if and when he's officially the head of Twitter, will bring back President Trump. Thanks for watching, and make sure to tune in to Status Coup's daily live stream Monday through Thursday at 5 o'clock Eastern Time and Fridays at 4 o'clock Eastern Time.